Hello, good morning. Welcome to Bars and Bells. My name is Lauren.
And I'm Ian.
And this is the weekend workout. But don't worry, it can be done any day. All you need is your body weight and a little bit of space. We'll start with a nice light warm up, and then we'll progress towards our crawls and eventually towards our handstands. There'll be many progressions along the way, so you can join us for as long, but hopefully not too little as you'd like. Remember to like and subscribe.
And squats, Lauren. Don't forget the squats. Always working on those squats as well.
Squats.
We'll start with the head neck. At the head neck, gently to do it first, do that lateral flexion, ear towards shoulder. Return through the middle position and do the same thing then the other side. As you do that one last time, consider moving the head on the neck, but the neck itself moves very little. Repeat through the middle, repeat to the alternate side one more time, and then finish looking straight ahead. Light effort extension, looking up. Then flexion where the crown of the head goes high and the chin goes towards down. Repeating one more of those as well, extension up, and then flexion down, and reset your head, nose and eyes on the horizon. Let's do the same actions to the rib cage, this time with the hands tightly across the body, with the shoulder blades in retraction, laterally flex, rib cage over the hips. Think about going up to go over as you do our lateral flexion the other side, and repeating. Stay the rib cage over the hips, repeating one more time on the other side. Return to the middle. Then it's front and back. So with the shoulder blades retracted, a modest chin tuck, flex or round through that upper back, but emphasize keeping the shoulder blades squeezing together. Now keep looking at the floor, but extend the T-spine or lifting your sternum up. Then the head could follow. Repeat again with a gentle chin tuck, flexion through that upper back or rounding forward. Keep looking at the floor and extend through that upper back, feeling a stretch through the back and abdominal tension on the front to support. And reset. For the last one that puts that all together, I like to open my stance more towards my squat stance. And at the head neck first, rotate so your nose might look out the same line as your leg. Then rotate through the torso, but for this case, keep the hips facing forward. Reset the head to the middle, then let the body follow, and then alternate to the other side. Head leads first for this drill. Keep the left hip forward if you rotate that way. Turn the torso, then head middle, body follow. Final one each side. Check in with these nice ranges, and these could be daily resets or specific to exercise warm-ups. Allow your body to rotate, to twist, to turn, but ultimately find the middle with the head, the body, and then we can wiggle it all away. Let's get to the floor to work on hands and shoulders, and then we'll throw it over to Lauren once we're there. Knees over those toes to perfect those squat movements and extend those hips through glute cramps, keeping the rib cage down on the hips. Let's do it again, but this time stay low and lift a single heel off the ground, and then place it to the floor. Then lift the alternate heel, place that to the floor. Maybe it's your imagination, but could you sink lower? I just saw that in my peripheral vision, Lauren did. And do that one more time of lifting a heel, and then lift the other heel, and then get lower, and let's push those hips through, extending. Did you feel muscle burn? Hopefully. Did you feel joint pain? Hopefully not. Chase the muscle working, avoid any specific joint pain in this practice. Let's get to the floor now with those knees over toes. The heels might lift to allow us to get lower, and then with the hands like me, or without like Lauren, get to that tall kneel position, wiggle yourself back, and let's prep the hands. Fingers, they land first, then the callus line or knuckles, full hands. First knuckle push-ups from here with nice straight elbows and armpits down or out of our ears. Ooh, little crack might happen there. And get into that routine of grounding yourself through the hands, the fingers, calluses, and that full hand, of course, but share the load so it's not just on those wrists in extension. Push the floor away, a little bit of a shakeout. Let's do a 180-degree turn of those fingertips so they face the knees, and then hands towards the floor. If you push your fingers towards your knees, you'll probably feel yourself drift forward. Then at that moment, bend the elbows, and then sit back, and your elbows might straighten out. Same thing again, push fingertips towards knees, shifting your weight forward, and then gently bend the elbows, and then pull yourself back, safely straightening the arms. Let's push the floor away. One more movement for me, and it's to warm up those shoulders, in particular the overhead action. We'll get into our lunge stance here to start, and we could do our John Travolta hips or our cats and our cows, but ultimately finding that nice level position. Then coordinating with the leg and the arm at the side here, light effort to elevate a shoulder and then pull down. I like my hand on those upper pec muscles, and we're trying to keep the pecs quiet as the arm goes towards overhead. So take a straight arm towards your safe overhead shape, and once we're there, we can turn in on the shoulder. The thumb goes down, that humerus at the shoulder is rotating in the socket, and then by the end of this, the pinky side of the hand faces forward and retract the shoulder blade, pulling the arm to the hip. Then reach down and back as we extend on the shoulder. Keep the elbow straight, rotate that blood donation of the arm faces the ceiling, bring the arm towards the ear, and a straight arm to return back to the hip. Repeating one more time, the armpit lat stays down, the arm goes towards overhead. Rotate in that socket. Nice and tight to the body as allowed, but making sure that our body stays square as to avoid a rotation. And reach down and back one more time. Hips forward, shoulders forward too. Navigate that turn as the arm goes overhead. And then one more time, bring the arm to the hip. Let's switch out that stance, and 2 repetitions on the other side. Hikes and pulls, tips and tucks. Find that nice level grounded position with the hips. Arm at the side. Reach down to go towards forward, and forward leads or blends towards that overhead. Then we'll turn in that shoulder socket, thumb towards down, and then we're navigating that circle shape in the shoulder and the pinky side forward and return it to the side of the hip. Reach down, reach back, extension on the shoulder is the back arm, and then turn in the shoulder socket, keep the arm straight at the elbow, it's likely to want to bend, and to overhead and back down to the front. Repeating one more time, reach down and forward. I personally feel the second one is a little more open, a little more groovy, and continue to educate your body as to what your appropriate ranges are and the ones that are a little more tricky. There we are, Lauren, we're in extension on the shoulder. Then we'll turn the palm up from the shoulder, arm towards overhead, reset that arm to the hip. Let's get to a tall kneel position until Lauren tells us what to do next.
I liked that lunge position. So let's come back to that lunge quickly and extend those hips a bit. So with that front leg gently pushing into the floor and that back hip lightly extended, I like my back toe tucked here. I want you to drive that hip forward, and we'll pull on the front leg, drifting knee towards over toe. Now check in with your rib cage. It should be over top of those hips, and then we'll push the floor forward as well as the back hip, squeezing it so you meet yourself up tall. Let's perform that same activity, but with the leg slightly out to the side. The leg is out to the side, the knee is in line with that index toe, the hips are level, and then we'll pull over that side leg, sending the knee towards over the toe, and then we'll push into the floor, meeting ourselves back to tall. Let's bring the foot back to center, and we'll do some pretending. First, we're going to push the floor forward and back, and we're going to pretend to lift that back knee up off the floor. Pretend so much, 99% of your weight is off that back knee. Pretend. So much that if I say lift, you could just lift up. Now stay lifted and pull the floor together without moving. Then push forward and back without moving. And do it again. Pull together and push away. And one last time, pull together to descend. Land softly, switch your legs, and let's repeat on the other side. So first we set up that nice bowl of punch hips, cage over top, back hip extended, front leg pulling in. We pulled so much on the front leg that we drifted knee towards over the toe. Feel that extension through the hip flexor. Squeeze the back cheek even more as you send yourself back to tall. Then heel toe the leg open to the side. Knee is in line with index toe. Hips remain level as I pulled myself over again. Feeling that adductor, feeling maybe a little ankle, and then squeezing that back hip as you come back to center. Repeat by bringing the leg back. And now we're pushing forward and back, getting some tension. As you do this, let's pretend to lift that back knee off the floor. Pretend. pretend, actual. Good. Then pull the floor together. Push it forward and back. Pull it together. Push it forward and back. Last pull together, soft landing. Burn knee burn. Put your legs underneath. We warmed up those hips and legs a little bit. Now it's time to warm up that core. Let's first get into our plank position. Then we're gonna lower ourselves. Flip over onto our back to our hollow hold. Then we're going to do more things. So, starting in the plank first. Up, hands under shoulders. You could do this from your elbows, but hands under shoulders, toes tucked, butt cheeks squeezed. Now, just like we pretended before, pull the floor together underneath you without moving. Create some tension. That part's not pretend, but moving is for 3, 2, and then knees down. Ooh, just take a second off. Let's tip the tailbone to the ceiling, push the floor forward to send the hips back. And then we're gonna pull on the floor and pull ourselves back up into that plank position. So start pulling with the lats, lift the knees, lift the hips back to that plank. Hold. This time without moving, pull your right hand to your left hip and your left hand to your right hip and create that cross-body tension. Then adjust your hands into a push-up position, so probably slightly wider, and pull yourself down to land softly and then flip over onto your back. Knees are bent, feet are flat on the floor, palms are up at your sides. Right here, we have that spine that we always have, which has that slight curve in our low back, and we're going to keep that there throughout this core exercise. So here, we are going to connect our ribs to our hips by lifting our head and shoulders off the floor, but keeping that little mouse house available, which means you didn't push your low back spine to the floor. We're breathing and holding underneath. Then we could stay here, or we could lift 1 or 2 knees, feet off the floor. Then we could extend one leg and alternate legs, or we could extend both legs and hold. And then we could take our arms towards overhead like we would be in our handstand. Breathing. Are your feet pointed? Are your legs straight and tight together? Are your cheeks squeezed? Are you still breathing under those abs for 5, 4, 3, 2, pull to center, and then relax. Whoa. Now let's just sit ourselves up into a tall position here. We'll perform one more activity before we get to standing for some single legs. All the single legs, fingers face backwards or sideways. You might adjust as you go here. Toes are facing away from you, knees are bent. Let's shrug our shoulders up. I don't know, but of course we know, so we'll pull the shoulders down. We'll lift the hips just off the floor. As allowed, let's scoop and tuck and lift those hips up into our tabletop position and just hold. I like to look towards the ceiling, keeping the elbows straight, keeping the shoulders out of my ears, then starting at the pelvis, the hips reach back, and we're going to try to reach our hips back between our hands as they come back under us and our legs are straight. Maybe we even lift those legs, even if it's one and the other, and then feet come down and lift ourselves back up. This time as allowed, keeping the table nice and level. Could you straighten one leg? And then could you switch legs, as in place down and switch. Don't try to lift both. Hold, down, and then hips come under us. This is where you can try to lift both. Hips come underneath of us. We try to lift, and then even if it's a piece of paper that slides under there.
Oh, we're doing it
one last time. I did change my hand orientation for that L sit. Oh yeah, okay, sure. Lift a leg, Ian wants to. Then straighten the other leg.
The title slide told me to.
And then hips come underneath. Believe everything you see on YouTube. Bring those hips underneath. Hold. And then hips back through. That's super easy.
I thought I liked my fingers facing back until Lauren suggested maybe turning them around. Play with it. Know the rules. Challenge them or break them accordingly. But right now, the rules is get up with no hands on the floor. Or minimal hand placement on the floor. As Lauren mentioned, those single leg squats, let's just take a quick time check and work through that movement clock first. So with some space around your body here, take a single leg up to the ankle, point it to the front, land toe ball heel. For right now, stay that same height and pull the leg underneath. The leg that just arrived underneath the hip, lead it back first. Stay low this time and push forward and return to the underneath hips position. Now just reach to the straight side this time and feel a pull effort and push, and then stay low. And then we're in that V stance perhaps with our feet, and reach and push and pull back to the original position. Right to the back this time, push forward through the front to go back, heels connect together, and then one more time to the front, toe ball heel, straighten the back leg, heels together. Let's push the hips through, return those feet to parallel for the first one, and then alternate on the other side. So it's the other leg that goes to the front. Oh, I think it was this one. Toe ball heel. Now that we're low, let's stay low and return that straight leg back and push forward and go back. Then we'll open to the side with that turnout in the hip. Pull yourself across, heels together, and then reach back towards that middle position, pulling and pushing, heels together. Then a single leg reaches back. It's straight, then it bends. The front leg straight, then it also bends. And then return it to the front and push off the back. Return together and stand tall. Warming up those legs, warming up those ankles, and again, a little bit of a shakeout. More squats to come, but first,
let's crawl. Let's get those hamstrings, core warmed up by doing our 3-point down dog. So we'll use our hinge to get there. Hip hinge, walk yourself out. We know our plank, we were there earlier, so let's reestablish that tension. Hands under shoulders, cheeks squeezed. If I came through the TV and lifted your feet up off the floor, you'd be in a handstand. You're tight like a board. Now with one foot, flick the floor away, lift the hips, reach it to the ceiling. For this practice, we're keeping our hips square to the floor. We're reaching long, pointing the toes, and then we'll pull back through to our plank and hold for 3, 2, other leg flicks away and reaches. Breathe, square up the hips, pull through. Try to get a little wrist extensions here. So trying to get your shoulders over your fingertips like your handstand. Flick, point, square up, pull through. One last time. Lift up, stay square, breathe, pull back to plank. Let's hold one last time. Squeeze everything tight. Then lift the hips. This time, let's staple the hands to the floor. I know it sounds vicious, but walk your feet in as tight as you can, keeping your hands flat. And then gently peel the palms away. Tuck the chin and slowly stack yourself back up. Wow.
Nice. In this practice, we typically just do that drill once. But if you're in your own practice in the gym and you're working on squats or something with those legs, throw in some sets of that down dog plank for a couple, just to keep the flow going and establish your groove and confidence going overhead. Single leg squat time. Let's not renege on that promise. So this time, pull up to the ankle. And this next move is our knee over toe. Let's hang out for time and have your knee pointing forward, then open that knee towards the side. Let's repeat that one more time, not as a dare, but kind of. Could you get lower and have a forward facing knee turn into that sideways facing knee? Return it to the front, push the hip through, full clench or cramp of those glutes, and return to 2 feet. Similar effort, other side. Pull up to the ankle. Knee towards over toe. Ensure that the hip doesn't drop out to the side by pulling up the hip on the other. Then we can open it to the side with the hips staying forward and closing back to the middle. As a maybe statement, you'll be able to get lower. Then open to the side. Lower does not mean easier. And then return to the middle and push through. Finish tall, 2 feet, shake, wiggle. Whatever says Lauren next goes.
Whatever says Lauren next. Lauren says, let's get moving a little bit laterally. We warmed up those squat legs. So let's pull ourselves down into that squat position. 2 feet underneath you, pull the floor together, come on down. We're moving side to side here, and the pattern is a hand, hand, a foot, foot. It can be nice and small to start, so it'll be a hand, hand, and a soft landing, foot, foot. And as we progress here, we can get a little bit more upside down. Hand, hand, and a foot, foot. And one last time, a hand, hand, and a foot, foot. Let's take ourselves back. It might feel a little bit different this way, but we're always practicing both sides. We're breathing. We're staying safe. So it could just be a little baby hand, foot, or a little bit bigger. End in your squat, press through to tall. And give that a shake and wiggle.
Yeah, that deserves a shake and a wiggle after that one. Wow. Not really a rest off those legs.
No.
Let's go back towards those legs. This time, similar effort from before, but with a straight leg out front, moving from the front to the side. Let's pull up to the ankle first and find your nice low position. Choose your high tension foot. Our preference would be the point, and point it to the front. Keep the hips forward. Open the leg to the side. Return it to the front. Get lower and repeat one more time. And when it's out to the side, I'm trying to show you my inseam or have that turned out hip, that femur at the hip. And then underneath, push the hip through and finish tall. Learning to tolerate that stress on the muscles, of course, not the joints, with that time under tension principle. Pull up to the ankle, knee over toe. Increase the hip flexion, meaning the height of that leg out front, to stabilize the other side. Lauren doesn't want to be here too long, so let's take that leg to the side.
Chit chat.
Then to the front. Lower, even that, if that's in your imagination, and then from the front to the side. Back to the front, underneath, hip, extend, through. There's always progressions, there's always regressions. Which direction are we going here today?
We are going to get into our kick-ups for a couple rounds here. So remembering, if you're not into kick-ups, no problem, don't go anywhere. You could practice your plank. You could practice those core moves we did at the beginning today as we start getting into our first round, which is that tripod entry. So we'll do this I go, you go. We always like to take a little bit of rest off those wrists because it is a lot to tolerate. With our hands on the floor, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, let's start just as we did with that lateral move. Little bit of, that's too much, little bit of air. Just baby, just get off the floor. Just get off the floor, good. And then we can add a little bit more air time there as both our mind and our body gain that confidence. If you're on just a little bit of air, keep practicing. That's a great place to start. Right now, we are getting towards overhead, and if we are working on that upside down position, we can either think about having that L-shaped leg, so that trailing leg behind to bring us back down, or up towards those scissor legs.
Go places that you know you can come home with confidence and safety. So those little baby airs, and Lauren's doing a nice little switch foot right away. Take your time. Can you point those toes? Or we focus on the hands and those shoulder extension, the wrist extension with the shoulders over top. There's so many things to think about, so slowly pick on one thing at a time, and ultimately, we can get to awesome handstand switches just like Lauren. Let's do that once more for 2 quick sets, alternating legs, or at least try both.
So entering that tripod position, I like to have my hands open out nice and wide. And then that alternating kickoff here, do choose or do try to use both legs or alternate your legs. But back to the hands. When we're thinking about our hands here, we have all of our fingers. We also have that callus line connected to the floor and the base of our hand. So we're not just putting weight down through that wrist joint, but we're trying to distribute the weight through our hands, just as we do through our feet when we stand.
Lauren is more of a kettlebellar than a basketballer, but as we'll press ourselves away from the floor, continue to think about pushing the floor away through the wrists, like shooting that jump shot. Lauren is back to that beautiful scissor switch, and switching which leg is that takeoff. If you happen to find yourself upside down, like right there, celebrate that, but also work on those frequencies and finding that right amount of time to stay upside down, just like that, or perfect that groove of finding the right weight to stand up. This time, let's get all the way down to the floor, no hand challenge, and maybe it's in that pistol or single leg squat right away. Then sit nice and tall. Point the toes or the heavy dorsiflexed ankle, and using that bent leg for leverage, let's sit up nice and tall on those sit bones as if to sit like a cow. Take a collective breath in and lift that leg. Point the toes or dorsiflex the ankle, but high tension in the legs all the way down to the tips of the toes. Repeating again, take a breath in and lift that leg up and higher, perhaps even higher. Quiver it, shake it, let it come home with control. Of course, we could do more and more and more, but these are nice, just gentle suggestions to add when you're at home or as part of your nice bodyweight practice. Take a breath, lift it up. That's my gesture leg. What about you, Lauren? 3, 2, 1, and down. We'll always have one that's preferred or can visually go higher. Let's work both.
Difficult.
And one more time for a couple seconds. Lift it up with your imagination and return it. And that would be a little bit of not as hardcore as Lauren if we didn't do it with both legs. So using those outriggers, take your breath and lift up and hold. We might flex that lumbar, but making sure we're pressing that sternum through and return. One more time. Normally Lauren talks during those hard drills, but here I am trying to maintain that composure and the high tension and down. And then no hands, no hands. We're back up to standing tall.
Get back to those kick-ups, and this time we'll explore that step-in entry. So this one we start tall, we have those arms overhead, we're in the hollow position that we worked on earlier on our back, and we'll take that step off the floor. Remember, start small, then get a little bigger as you gain that confidence. As we land, we're landing through the hands, so we're landing fingers, calluses, palm. Let's try to absorb the landing versus just landing flat on that hand, and that's where we'll get ouchy wrists, and we don't want that. So soft landing, and then as you come back up to standing, you're thinking about pushing the floor away to come all the way back up to tall. We're again trying to alternate that takeoff leg.
That's right. We always probably have that preferred leg. Challenge both. It'll make it more resilient, and it'll even make your stronger leg that much stronger, stronger and stronger, strongest. So Lauren's cues included that hollow body and elevated shoulders. Earlier in today's practice, we said shoulders out of these armpits, but this move right here, the handstand, feel free to elevate. As you push your hands and arms and shoulders down, we'll find ourselves growing up.
One more round of that. The other trick I like to tell people is that we're trying to get up and over a little something. So think about up and over to land nice and stacked on those hands versus attacking the floor at that side angle. We want the hips to ultimately end up over top of the shoulders. Give yourself room on either side to always get out of this, but ideally we're coming back to that standing position. And if that's just your goal right away, if that's your goal right away, that every time you get up, you come back to standing, that's a great place to start, even with that baby air.
Baby air, start small and you can go from there. Lauren already has those pointed toes, pushing the floor away, and the pushing of the floor away allows us to use our body comprehensively versus using the back extension to get us up, making sure we feel it safely through the whole body and most definitely not specifically through the back.
Woo! Try to avoid that.
Nice. But that happens. We might need to know where that edge is so we can try to avoid it as we continue our training together. Build confidence and refine the groove.
One more note on that. That 3-point plank that we practice, that's why we keep our hips square. Because if our hips are open in that handstand, just like I did in that last one, that's when we end up falling over to one side. Nice. So keep those hips square in that 3-point position.
Performance enhancing tips all around, including tucking in of the shirt here and
fixing
there.
Your hair.
It gets out. That's right. It all matters. One more time on our squat. And then there's that ultimate handstand challenge to finish. So on that squat, pull up to the ankle. Then let's sit low. Then take a single leg out front and think about getting even lower, and then return the leg underneath and push the hip through. Let's alternate legs here and do the same thing on the other side. So with the leg underneath the hip, we'll sit squat, extend the leg out front, think about getting lower, then pull under and extend through. Final repetition each side, I promise, but this time let's take that leg out front, dorsiflex or point. For this move, I do choose that dorsiflex, and take your time getting to your safe low and having that oomph to come up. We are strong and stronger, and that was my stronger side, and this is my strong side, as it is a little bit more challenging. Let's give it a whirl. Leg out to the front. Take our breath. Pull yourself down to your squat, and if you have to rock a little bit, that's okay, but I will try to refine that going forward.
So we have 1 minute of fun, or anything more than 1 second of fun on the clock to finish up today. It could be practicing those hollow holds, holding on the floor on your back, practicing your plank, crawling around like an elephant, crawling around like a monkey, or kick-ups, or ultimately trying to hold that handstand. We'll put about a minute on the clock. We'll see how it goes today. And we're going to try to hold those handstands as we finish up here today. So get yourself organized, get ready, and we'll start in about 3 seconds, 2, 1. Whoops, sorry.
Oh, I was going for a 41-second handstand. I think I hit it today.
We started at the 5.
Like 20, yeah.
25.
Yeah, I think we're right about there. Awesome. Finish. Hold that shape. Really nice finish there, Lauren. And push the floor away.
Mediocre minute there.
And save some in the tank. Avoid that failure or fatigue, 100% fatigue at least in this practice. Refine the groove. And if you can do more, we'd love you to join us later next week on Saturday for more of this, or any of our other programming on Tuesdays with kettlebells and Thursdays working on the push-up and those other body weight skills like the squats and plies.
Just want to get one more good one, but I'll do that off camera. Thanks for joining us today. Remember, progress is not linear, and everything you see here is done live. So
Live.
you never know what's going to happen.
Never know.
Next week, we are in week 4 of our semester already. Week 4. Can you believe it?
I cannot.
This is semester 3 this year. Week 4 started with our kettlebell and then our bar and our body weight. Remember to check out our website, sign up for our newsletter, like and subscribe on YouTube. And until next time, take care.
Stay strong.
Let's train soon.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.